Welcome to Pathways to Peace, creating peace inside and around us with emotional intelligence, or EQ. With your host, Matt Perlstein. In every episode, we explore the art, science, and magic of EQ for peace, power, and purpose in life. You can find this show at www.eqforpeace.org and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Now here's the host of Pathways to Peace, Matt Perlstein.
Okay, well, welcome everyone, and welcome to Hanley Brite, my special guest today. Good to see you.
Well, good to be here. Thanks very much for inviting me, Matt.
You bet. This is our fifth attempt to record this, so we're hopeful that this is going to go through this time. And it's an important subject, so it's worth retrying. We are trying to create peace. We're trying to create peace. As you know, there's lots of non-peace going on inside a lot of people. There's a lot of turmoil going on for people inside and out. And so we have a nonprofit called EQ for Peace. We are working toward getting peace in the world, but we're starting inside. So this is a special presentation that this time with Hanley, because he is a long time emotional intelligence expert and has some great concepts on how to create peace inside of us and go out from there. So Hanley, welcome.
Thank you very much again for having me. And just to get started on this whole notion of finding peace from the inside out, we're going to look at this from what does this really mean? And the whole notion of looking at this connection between emotional intelligence and peace is it's always been pretty simple for me. It starts with you. I mean, it starts inside. I mean, to create a peaceful world, it starts with peaceful communities, which starts with peaceful friends and family, which at the end of the day starts with peaceful people. And so where to look for peace is not to start to look at it from without, but to start from looking from within and moving from there to ask the questions, how am I going to create peace without? You need to start by looking about how am I going to create it from within, and from there, how do I move to through emotional intelligence to create peace from there. Next slide, please. So there's two thoughts for today. One, emotional maturity and rational thinking go hand in hand. And the notion of emotional intelligence, and I like the notion of emotional maturity. It's language that I use a lot in talking to people about emotional intelligence. Is that in using the term maturity, I want to employ that emotional intelligence is a process of growth. You know, there is a misapprehension that we are born at a certain level of emotional intelligence, and that's just as intelligent as we can be emotionally. And that is simply untrue. The fact is that emotional intelligence is learnable. Okay. And we mature and we learn through our experiences, and we can acquire skills, and we can acquire knowledge, and we can grow. And the more emotionally intelligent and mature we are, the more we can apply that to the way we think about ourselves and the way we think about the world around us. And the most powerful thing that we have for creating a peaceful world around us is our own behavior. So the biggest information we have instrument for change, for creating peace, is basically ourselves. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's take a look at what we mean by the peaceful human being. Okay, and I take a look at this, in a very simple yin and yang way. And if you look at the yin and yang, just back up from the words for a second, just look at the symbol, and the whole strength of yin and yang is very simple, is that if for yin and yang to be very strong, there needs to be a little bit of yin in the yang and a little bit of yang in the yin, which means is that within the thinking being, okay, which has to do with reasoning and problem solving, there needs to be embedded the feeling being. And within the feeling being, which has to do with emotional awareness and navigation, okay, there has to be the thinking being. Okay, so this whole notion that one's IQ and EQ are two separate things is again somewhat of a myth. These are two things that are completely intermixed with each other and completely interrupt with each other all time. So one's emotional intelligence and one's ability to reason and solve problems are interacting with each other constantly. So you can be the brightest person in the world intelligently with a very, very high IQ. But if you can't control your temper and you're impetuous, that's not going to do you much good in the world.
Right.
And it certainly isn't going to help you to create peace. So these things need to really, really work well together. And
Well, would you agree?
uh,
Would you agree, though, that, yeah, I agree they need to work together, certainly, and I would agree that they are intertwined. But would you also agree, though, that in our school systems and in our families growing up, we are focused mostly on our thinking and not on our feeling?
Very, very well said, Matt. And I think that's absolutely. I think that to say that is that foundationally there's an assumption in society, and very much more so, I would say, in Western society, that we're going to acquire all the skills in reading and writing and arithmetic and all that around the IQ side, and we're going to learn skills there, and it's going to be pretty well left up to other means other than that to learn how to become more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good luck.
and I
Right.
think that I would contend that a lot of the problems we see in the world is this incredible imbalance around the way we as societies approach the learning about these two. On the very positive side is this tremendous upsurge we're seeing in a lot of areas across a lot of cultures these days in things like social emotional learning right now. We're an acknowledgement that children don't only need to learn the basics of emotional intelligence and things like that, but also specifically need to learn about their own emotions and how they operate in the world. And of course, this is built on a foundation that values differences and a confrontation ways of dealing with and confrontational ways of dealing with conflict. Okay, that are non-confrontational. Next slide, please. Okay, now it's a very interesting thing to look at it that our emotions are what drive our actions, and our thoughts are what fuel our actions. Now think about that. We think about something and that fuels us to do something. Okay, and then that fuel is what fuels in our bodies, and we get a feeling, and that's why we move. Okay, go to the next slide, please. Okay, so if you take a look at that, emotions and actions, and so we have a positive thought which fuels positive actions. Positive actions lead to reinforcement, which leads to positive thoughts, which creates a positive reinforcing loop. This is very, very important in the way we think about how we create positive action in the world and how we create peace. Next slide, please. The same can be said very much around negative reactions. So we have negative thought forms. Negative thought forms manifest themselves in negative actions. Negative actions tend to be reinforced with negative thoughts, which tend to be reinforced by negative actions. So it's very important to understand the interaction between our thought forms and our emotions and how they fuel each other. Okay. And in moving towards this peaceful human being, understanding this very powerful interaction between our thoughts and our emotions is just critical. Next slide, please. So, if you take a look at that notion of a positive reinforcing loop, and then you take a look at where we started out from with you, your circle of your family and your friends, your community, and then everything else, the world at large, is the way you're holding yourself and your powerful instrument within you, and how that what that creates, and what that empowers in others, and what that particularly inspires in others, and what that creates within the community, and what that enables at the next level. And the next slide, please. Okay, so what I want to do now is take a little bit of a sidebar here, because in preparing this slide set and in my conversations, and I want to get into a little bit of a conversation with Matt about this, is because I know this is such a deep passion of his, and it's been inspired to me, is to take a look at this. We talk, and also what's going on in the world today is so much of the crises about mental health, and the importance of how we look at this model and this notion about what we are doing within ourselves and what we're doing to help others around really understanding not only the crises, but what we can do in a positive way to reinforce the notion, because to have a more peaceful place within ourselves, within our circle, within our communities, mental health becomes a critical part of this. And in thinking through this, I constructed, I've been thinking a lot about mental health in terms of trying to parse it out and look at it about the components of it and where we have impacted the different kinds of impact we have, and where we can really influence it from a standpoint of emotional intelligence. So I built this little Venn diagram that looks at a model for mental health in three different categories. Pathology. There's chemistry involved. There are some people, I feel very bad for them, who need medication, who literally have pathological problems that affect them. Luckily today, there are medicines that can help people. There are people who have problems that impact their mental health. There is an environmental aspect. Abuse abuse is a big part of it. And then there is the interplay between addiction is completely the interplay between environment and pathology, and then and self-induced. Okay, self-induced is a very simple thing. If you're watching the right television shows, you can make yourself crazy. If you watch them all the time, you can make yourself very crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
And but that's sort of the humorous side of it. But the serious side of it is we can do a tremendous amount from everything from the way we are with ourselves, to the way we take care of ourselves, to the foods we eat, to the exercise we do, to the books we read, to just about everything that helps us be a more mentally healthy to not so healthy in that way. And what's really important about this model is to understand the interplay about how much power we have within ourselves in all three of these circles to help ourselves and others, and to understand to understand where it is that we can have impact with ourselves and others around mental health. Okay, at pretty much the macro level. This is not, this therapy is not only the only answer. There's a lot of answers in this little Venn diagram. But what I wanted to do in our very limited time here was just to bring a little bit of the mental health question into this, just so we can take a look at this thing in the context of looking about what does peace really mean within? What am I immersing myself in my environment? What am I doing inside to keep myself healthy? Okay, Matt, any thoughts or reflections you have to this?
This is
Are you muted?
fantastic. Yeah, this is a wonderful way to put it. I hadn't thought of it this way before. We're talking about the pathology is you physically, what you can handle, what you can't handle, what your chemical imbalances and such. You're right. So a lot of people, there are physical things that need to happen inside of us that aren't happening or that are happening incorrectly, and we need to handle that. Then there's the environment. And of course, we can do some things about some of that, and some of it we can't. A lot of it we can't. But it's happening around us, whether we like it or not. And then there's our decisions and our abilities to manage things, which is the self-induced part. I'm loving it. I love it. I usually talk to the self-induced part, but there's more to it than that. You're right.
Oh well, we talked to the self-induced, but one of the things in putting this, the more when I built this model, Matt, you did that. One of the things for me as I look at this, I keep digging deeper and deeper into this thing, and looking at the interplays here, and relative to things particularly about how I make more emotionally intelligent choices, and if you will, more peaceful choices, and to do that. And one of the things that I know is that my more peaceful and more effective self-induced choices create a better environment for myself. And when I'm creating a better environment for myself, I'm creating a better environment for others.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
Okay.
Right on. Yes,
and
absolutely.
what I know about that is that at some level, that the piece about the pathology piece of this is that exists at all levels, from diagnosable illness in my
Right.
mind to just having too much coffee. And everything. I mean, I'm serious, and everything in between. So I started looking at that more at the extreme end of that. But that pathology is also a continuum. That within the context of that pathology is, I'll give you my own personal case, is that I have battled. Luckily, I've not had to be medicated, but I battled with degrees of depression many times in my life. And my pathway out of that battle has been mostly through exercise. I am able to basically deal with that because I know if I'm releasing my energy, I'm getting my exercise. And that's dealing. So there's a pathology associated with my depression. That, and I look at that as definitely within that notion of between the self-induced pathology is really important. So this turns out to be, again, on the final piece, what I put together in this thing is, I say, what do I really want when we were putting this together, Matt? What did I really want to say here about this whole notion of within us, what's going on? And again, and I built this Venn diagram less as some for me to diagnose the world or anybody else, but more as it's a great way for anybody to just look at as a lens to look at others, but also as a mirror. Okay, what's going on within you? Okay, what's my, you look at it, what's my peaceful pathology? What can I do every day to just be more peaceful that day? Okay, what am I doing to make myself more sane or crazy?
Yeah.
What am I doing to make myself more happy or sadder?
And how much coffee are you drinking? Yeah. So, you're right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And,
So,
and what am I doing to create? And the thing that really where pays off is in that environmental circle, because I know the environment I create for myself is
mhm,
always contributing to the environment of others, and that turns out to be so important to me. You know.
absolutely. Um, I agree. And there's things that we can control, things that we can't, obviously, right? The pathology part of it, I tell people, if you have been diagnosed and you have you're on medication, stay on it. Stay on it for now, and don't. We're not suggesting that you cut yourself off cold turkey because now you're emotional intelligent and you're going to handle your mental health. Not at all. So we
Yeah.
got to handle the pathology part of it. We can get ourselves in the best environment that we can. And what I'm encouraging people, though, is that the self-induced part is much, much larger than we thought. There's a lot we can do for ourselves, for our own ailments and issues and problems and pain. And so while we're on the medication and while we're getting into the best environment that we can, there's much we can do in addition. A lot of people just do the pathology part and that's it. And I'm like, no, we got to be active, involved in our own health, right?
Mhm. Yeah, well, that's true, and hey, this, one of the things where, and I, by the way, I've been starting to uh, take deeper dives into this model, because this model's inspired me to write an article now, a Medium article
Hmm,
about it.
cool.
Is that here's a no surprise, is that people who do have mental illness challenges, of which medication is significantly helping them for. People who are in supportive environments are more likely to take their medications regularly. What a
Yeah. Mhm.
surprise!
Hmm,
And
good
people
point.
who are not in supportive environments are
Hmm,
not well.
good point.
Yeah. And if you take a look at that's one part. Now the flip side, that's the medicated part of pathology. There's also the dark side of pathology, which is addiction, where you're taking a lot of medications you shouldn't be taking.
Yep.
Okay, which is
Yep.
a phenomenal crisis,
Yeah.
which leads to a lot of problems that we know about. And there again, environment. I mean, you can see how this Venn diagram really plays into the aspects of that. As far as people getting into an environment where they're supportive to get out of that pathology. You know.
Yep. Yes.
So this is again, as we talk more about people, about mental health, as you say, we in the emotional intelligence world, we tend to talk more about the self-induced piece, but I think it's important for us to be talking about all three, and how they interplay and interact with each other.
Yep, totally agree. And they're all need to be kind of studied separately and handled separately, and have a strategy for each one, if you will. And but the three of them together should be able to get some good results. So I'm with you.
Absolutely.
I like
Yeah,
it.
again, there are separate strategies in all three of those circles. But
Hmm.
yet, every time you do one positive in any one, as the friend, that's why it's a Venn diagram. Is that whenever you do something positive in one of the circles, it's going to have positive impact in the other two. And conversely, every time you do something negative in one, it's going to have negative impact.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep.
So that's good. Okay. Any other remarks about this you can think of?
Um, just that I said, like I said, it's self-induced part. I think that most people, my personal opinion, is hard to prove it, but I believe most people have not had the education. They do not have emotional education. Most of us are not taught in schools. We don't talk about it at home. We better not deal with emotions at work, right? And so we don't know. So we don't know. The self-induced part is people doing the best they can. They're trying to cope as best they can, without much education, without much information, and that's kind of a shame. It's very definitely a shame. That's a solvable, changeable thing. It is we can do better, and that's what we're trying to do with our nonprofit. That's what we're trying to do.
Well, I think even beyond, I think you're right. I think not only do we not teach it, but mental illness in our society and in many societies is deeply stigmatized. And we're moving. You can see there are some lights at the end of that tunnel, because in many ways it's being destigmatized. We see, for instance, star athletes are major cultural influencers in our society, specifically among young people, for instance. And the fact that really important major celebrity athletes come out and discuss the fact that they're suffering from, or also entertainers, people like that, when they come out, that's, because of the way our culture works, it's important when these people discuss this in positive ways and say, listen, I'm really depressed. I've had this problem and I'm dealing with it. That really makes a big difference.
It does,
because it starts to destigmatize it, and destigmatizing is an important part of the learning process.
It is, and it's. I'm seeing a wonderful shift in priorities and that stigma, where more and more people are coming out with what's going on with them, being real about it, showing that that it's a real issue, and it's solvable, and it's something that we can actually work with. But we got to talk about it. We got to learn about it. We need to discuss it. We need to make it a real something that we focus on. So yes, I totally agree with you.
Great. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we had two thoughts for today. We're getting near the end. I want to wrap this up. Emotional maturity and rational thinking go hand in hand. Okay, I think we sort of showed that through the mental health, the notion that that the way we are inside emotionally with ourselves, and one of the ways, another way to look at emotional maturity is take a look at our head and our heart. What's going on up here? What's going on in here? When they are in sync, when we are, as I like to say, when both our heart and our head are acting as adults, the whole adult is present in the house. And when the whole adult is present, and the whole adult is operating from a value of peaceful conclusions, you've got the peaceful human being operating.
Right on.
Okay, and that's the most important thing. And the thing is, and just to get is to understand the power of your behavior. Okay, and understand the power of your behavior, and that the people in your lives are watching you in a good way. Mm-hmm. They're watching you.
Right on.
And when you do things in a peaceful and in an emotionally mature way, it matters and it counts and it contributes, and it really does make a difference.
Yep. So two things about that. One is I love your concept of emotional maturity. You said some people say that we're born with high EQ, which is not really true. Well, we handle our emotions pretty well. With little kids do, because in the way that they feel them, and then when they're done, they go back to being peaceful and loving and happy in a positive way. So it's kind of organic in that way, but it's not mature. Mature has to do with understanding yourself, controlling yourself, getting along with other people, etc. So maturity can only be built over time and with some more information and practice and such. And I definitely agree with the behavior part. What we've been realized, I guess I just kind of realized this the other day, is their thoughts, feelings, and actions are our three big things, right? Thoughts, feelings, and actions are the biggest things we can control that we need to about emotional intelligence. Our thoughts and feelings, we can think whatever we want to, but when it turns to actions, okay, now we're going to the outside world. Now there might be consequences. Now, warning, right? Look out, because it's about our behaviors. And it's nice that we feel emotionally intelligent, but it's better that we do something with it, do something about it, that we can create some peace in our lives and in and around us, and we do actual behaviors that support that, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's a great summation, and that's about what I had to say. Again, Matt, I want to thank you very much for inviting me. It really sparked some thought in me today, and it was a pleasure joining you.
Great. Well, thanks for trying so many times. Persistence wins the day again.
Yeah.
I love your chart. I'm going to use your Venn diagram if I could for in the future for teachings because I do a lot of them. This is the second one today. And so off we go. So this is the end of Pathways to Peace, or C12 sessions. Look back through them if you can, if you'd like. And next time we're going to start off with a new season on Feel It to Heal It. We're talking about using strong emotions to relieve negative problems inside of us, and in mature ways, in productive ways, and efficient ways. So thank you, Hanley. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and continue to make emotions more important in your life, because they're much more important than we ever imagined. So good. All right. Great. Thank you. Take care.
You've been listening to Pathways to Peace, creating peace inside and around us with emotional intelligence, EQ, with your host, Matt Perlstein. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, and sharing this show with others. You can catch prior episodes at www.eqforpeace.org and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more.